G'day there guys, welcome back to In My Shed. I'm BC. Now what has the old goat been up to? Haven't had a video out for about 8 days now. I have been up to my armpits in shit trying to get this bloody borer going, and I need the borer going to work on the parts for the tool and cutter grinders, and I may do a little bit of work on those without the repair just to demonstrate the wheels, but it's the fix a tool to make a tool. Fix a tool, I'm sorry. And I'll give you a good walk around the repairs I've had to do. And I don't blame the manufacturers or the machine itself. Like, it's 61 years old, I think, which is a bloody old machine. It's only 10 years younger than me. And the plastic wiring, although I've got a question mark there, if in the operator's manual it says keep coolant off the wiring as it might be damaged, why the hell don't you change to a coolant-proof wiring? You can't expect the machine to run dry, although I do run it dry, the rest of the world probably wouldn't. It's got a very complex gearbox just here, and I'll show you that shortly. I'm pretty sure this machine was cobbled together with parts or things that are readily available. 110 volt electrics auxiliary isn't English, that's American bloody voltage. And why in a little 3-speed 2-axis gearbox like this you've got 3 worm wheels? Well, that's adding cost and complexity to it unless you're using a gearbox off something else, something already available, or maybe the factory only had worm wheel producing equipment, but there are plenty of spur gears in here, even bloody bevel gears. So yeah, it just doesn't make sense to me. I will say though, having a spray clutch on both axes so you can't readily overload it, okay. There isn't an oil seal on it. It's got a oil splasher so that when the main shaft rotates it throws oil up into all the other gears, and that's good. And there is a flange on the motor with a seal so that any oil that came down from the tower that the worm wheels on would run down onto the motor and flow over and be lost overboard. Well, that's good, but the previous owners decided to put a sheet metal shield around it, which effectively kept the bloody oil in. I honestly don't know. But what I've done, I've had replaced the wiring from the 3-speed motor switch down to the motor, so I can now get the power head to run. And once I close the gearbox up again, I can run it without the power feed motor until I get that sorted so I can do the tool and cutter work. I've had to strip the wiring that came to the rear of the motor through a tube that runs inside the frame. I may use that tube again, but the wiring had deteriorated with age, and I was getting the wiring from the the forward reverse switch for the feed motor going down and shorting it and popping the circuit breaker, and it wasn't blowing fuses in the machine, and I'm starting to tear my bloody hair out, like what the hell's going on? Yeah, I removed all the wiring that comes back to the feed motor, and it all works now. I can turn the feed motor switch on and it doesn't pop anything. So as far as I'm concerned, the fault was downstream of the feed motor. Now I'm getting 10 megohms with a mega on the motor, which I'll show you in a few minutes. I think the motor could be good, although I will be giving it a good hosing out and might put some fly lead insulation on it just to make sure, to be sure. Lots of different fasters, lots of bloody BA rubbish. I dislike that fasters even on electrical gear. And the gearbox itself, I've got one of the earlier models and it's only a 1/4 horse motor. The later ones had a 1/2 horsepower motor. Boy, the gears in here would run my big shaper or the bloody lathe. So it's a bit more robust than it has to be. It's put together like a bit of a bag of worms, and I'm doing my best to get that up and running. So I haven't just been having beers and eating bloody pretzels, that's for sure. Okay, I'll bring you around here, show you a few of the things I've removed, then we can have a look at the motor, and then I might get some work done. Bring you back soon. Okay, we're looking at the top of the power feed box, and the power feed box powers the cross slide in that direction, and it has another shaft down here that runs through to a gear that engages in a rack and moves the saddle along. Well, as I bring the camera down, you'll see the sprag clutches that are involved, but there's a tower shaft comes up from the motor, which is mounted right down the bottom here, and that tower shaft turns the vertical feed into horizontal. It then feeds into a 3-speed gearbox operated by this fellow here, and then 2 worms transfer that into rotating of this shaft for the cross feed, and a shaft here to run the bloody longitudinal feed. I'm sort of staggered. You could do the whole thing just with plain straight gears inside, a hell of a lot cheaper and a lot easier, but that's the way they want it done. I've taken the cover off the top here, and one of the problems I did have is this gear arrangement down here was all jammed up. It's a shaft in a sleeve, and the sleeve is powered by a sprag clutch that I'll show you, so that the inner shaft works the manual feed, and then the power feed comes out through the sprag clutch and powers the inner shaft through the clutch. So it's a sleeve in the gearbox, and then the shaft sleeved into that. And the bit that was sleeved into the gearbox was, I think, jammed and causing it to load up. It was very, very difficult to move, and I think it actually tripped the sprag clutch. So there's a few little interesting bits I've got to get back together, and that could be straining the friendship a little bit. Yeah, I don't want to break anything while I'm about it. This is the transmission lever, and I can't go moving that now because the little operating cable, I think it's called a Morse cable, is disconnected, and I had to do that to get the conduit away, to get one of the nuts off from the motor. It's like working on a bloody Rolls-Royce aircraft motor. Absolutely awful. And including all the cabling is running through the old hard wound steel bloody conduit, and you can't drop anything until you've disconnected the conduit, and to do that you've got to pull all the wires out. And what should just be a 3-minute wiring job was about an hour and a half just to get that bit of conduit apart. So I'll be simplifying it, I think, flexible plastic eventually. And I don't want to spend too many hours because this machine is destined for a nicely donated VFD. And the only reason I'm not wiring that in now is I haven't bought the appropriate enclosures. I've got one that's too small and one that's way too big. And I didn't realise until yesterday I'll probably be better off breaking it up into 2 enclosures. But I don't want to spend many, many man hours wiring it all up to use all the original gear and then disconnect it all to go onto the VFD. So this will be half a job. I think I will verify that the motor's okay, get the gearbox closed up again, and then I'll use manual feed on the table to do the few jobs that I have. Okay, I'll disconnect you, walk you around, and then show you the motor. Okay guys, back again. I went for local lighting to try and give you a bit of a better look at what we're up to. And I had to search the internet today to try and find some information about it. This old British Standard type motor has been discontinued for some time, and I don't know why they don't make the newer motors compatible with the old ones. They changed the diameter of the spigot that mounts it, which surprised me, and they changed the PCD and diameter of the bloody mounting bolts. So it's a little bit strange, but if you can see, I'll turn it a little bit. I was very, very lucky, even though they put no anti-seize on the drive key or the shaft, it wasn't jammed too tight up in the enclosure. But it's an open frame motor, which in a bad swarf environment is a real bit of a no-no as far as I can see. And it's designed for the oil to come down, get lodged in here, and then slung out all over the operator. And the operator thought it'd be a good idea to lock all of this off and drag all the oil back into the motor. So it goes down into the motor, and I'll show you in a sec. The electrical connections are down the bottom, and the oil doesn't short it out. Oil is an insulating material, but all the crap that goes down there with the oil, all the swarf, etc., that does give the electrics a little bit of a hard time. And in the history that I've had this machine, I had this bottom cover off twice and get a can of dye check cleaner up in there and give it a spray. I don't like using the stuff that's got the bloody CFCs in it. I'd rather survive a bit more. Okay, that's the back of the housing. And this is the one area that I'm worried is a terminal strip in there with the connections. Once again, all BA crap. And I've hosed all the gobbledygook out of there, and I've come up with 10 meg per winding. And it seems that 10 meg is what I get on everything in this bloody machine. I'm happy with that. If I can't get a replacement at a reasonable price, I'll strip this block out, put silicon insulation over the fly leads, and glue it all up with a bit of resin and try and make it a bit shit proof. But it's greaseable here, greaseable up the top of the motor, although you shouldn't ever have to grease anything. There is that much bloody oil flowing around. But, you know, for something that's 61 years old, it turns as freely as hell. And the same with all the gears in the gearbox, the worm drives, etc. Just got to be careful you don't jam your finger in there. It'll take a piece out of it. But yeah, very, very happy with what's been done so far. Okay, I'll take the camera off the tripod, give you a shaky look around the gearbox, show you what I've done and the problems I've encountered. Okay guys, we're having a little bit of a handheld walk around the Kearns. This is the handheld fine feed wheel. And you see it's hooked up to the cross slide at the moment, although the gear is not engaged back into the handle feed. So nothing's going to move there. All of that mechanism has been disconnected. One brake clutch down there. That housing down below goes over the outside of this and supports the shaft, and also has the matching graduations. 3-speed shift lever. And that telescopic cable hanging out there is what allows this lever here to move the dogs inside to engage either the cross feed or up here to engage the longitudinal feed via a gear onto the rack. And you can see what I mean by it being built like a brick dunny. All of the gears are absolutely huge. And I just realised it'd be better if I put some light on the subject. You can see another worm wheel inside. That's a very low ratio because it's got straight teeth. This one here is a higher ratio. It's got the helical teeth. And inside there you can see the 3-speed gearbox. And I'm sorry I can't move the lever and hold the light and the camera as well. Okay, that's the flange that the motor mounts to from underneath. Pretty basic until you try and get it apart. And you can see here where one of the mounting nuts are, quarter BSF jammed up inside there. Not that easy to get to. Okay, once I get the light off, I'll call it quits for now and bring you back when I'm doing a little bit of grinding later on. G'day again guys, it's now the following day, and bad news for me, I don't think my borer is going to be whirring around and chewing metal up for some days. Had a lot of trouble pulling this motor apart, even though it's a dead simple little thing. They Loctited the sliding bearing, amongst other wonderful work. Someone's been into it before me, and I don't know who you are, but you're a bloody dreadful fitter. I think the only thing worse than your fitting is your machining. But anyway, I'm just being spiteful, but I'm the bloke that's got to pull the slack. I'll bring you in, you can have a bit of a close squiz. I had to do it around about, as I said, the floating motor was Loctited in, so the back housing didn't come out nice and easy. that would have been the easy fix. But I may have to pull the windings out. The actual windings themselves look to be in excellent condition for something nearly as old as me. But like me, they've got a few faults. I think the fly leads are all left. Enough wenching. I'll turn you off and around and bring you in for a closer look. G'day there guys, a bit of the anatomy of the day's work. Quite a simple three-phase motor. As I said, this bearing here I think was Loctite then. I would say that this is a sliding bearing because there is no lip for the bearing to butt up against. So this is the end that slides backwards and forwards. The work end is the fixed end with quite a good diaphragm in there, or adapter plate, whatever you want to call it, bell housing. Now the problem, these little fellas here. The actual windings look to be in very, very good condition. And the enamel doesn't look overheated. I don't think it's done that much hard work, a bit like some people I know. However, if you have a close look, this lead in particular is quite blackened all the way down to there. They still measure up quite okay. They're all insulated from frame and all equal resistance. I think it's about 124 ohms face to face, so that part of it's okay, but this had quite a bit of yuck built up on the terminal block, and I suppose when you just put more energy into the three-phase that my little Mega can generate, you break an arc up. The oil itself is an insulator, but all the shite that's in the oil, which in this case is quite a bit of fine metal dust because it's a horizontal borer, that's where the arcing was coming in. There wasn't much rubbish around the terminal block. It was almost good, but I think there's enough for that to be the failure. I have found a couple of other points in the wiring through the frame of the machine where there could have been an arc generator, but there was no definite evidence, and this to me really does, shine that I've had an arc out there. At least I have the culprit, but that puts the end to using the borer until I get this sorted out. I don't like running the machine without it because I think that the spigot of the table feed motor might be one end support for the worm that brings the power into the back of the gearbox, and I don't want to run it without that support. If that is the case, and the drawings in the manual aren't worth a jillipizz. Okay, bring you back in a sec. Well, fellas, just like a horse stable, this place has got a long face in it. I really did want to see an easy fix for that machine. God help me in a few places, I think, because it wasn't my skill there. Without a definite maintenance manual, without any gearbox schematics, I think I did a reasonable job. Nothing went crunch. And after 2 false starts, the table longitudinal feeds all back together. That was a bit of a worm house. But anyway, now you know what I'm up against. So I'm going to be doing another video and start on those grinding wheels, although I can't modify that grinder at all. I think we can still at least try the wheels out on the, I don't know, Clarkson, I suppose. Or I can bring them over and, of course, I can run them on the bloody Haro. I haven't been thinking about that. Haven't had it running for that long. Anyway, please like and subscribe if you want to see this series to continue. And I hope to bring you back later in the week. I've got a raining day at the club tomorrow, and I'll bring another video out about that. And I'll start on the grinding probably Monday or Tuesday. It looks like the weather is holding out to be reasonable with only clouds and a few showers, not pissing rain like we've had for some time. Okay, bye for now.